Hi, good afternoon. I'm Shreya Taggi with Pray Play Shift, and we are going to pick up where we left off last week, which is talking about mental health and my journey. I want to be able to give you a little bit more background into my mental health issues because I'm hoping that my experience will be able to help you. And to tell you a little bit about Pray Play Shift, we are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, and also have a podcast and a webpage. So pray, we believe praying every day really gives us an ability to say about all the things we're grateful for and all the blessings we have in life. That gets us started off with a really great day. And then have a little playtime, whatever that means to you, but just have some fun every day. And then also to shift. So we want to be able to shift our thinking, shift our mind, shift the way that we have maybe become in the habit of thinking so that we can think differently in order to help us with either any mental health struggles that we have or just day-to-day life. So that's kind of what we do here. This will be my second video, and I'm going to just pick up where I left off, just review real quickly the 4 buckets of mental health. The first one is situational, where something happens kind of out of our control, or maybe it's something that we did and we become sad, or we become angry, or maybe we're extremely tired. And typically we can solve those things pretty quickly. We can come up with a solution and they don't actually turn into a mental health issue. However, if they last longer, and typically that can be 2 weeks or more, and we don't do something, then that sadness can lead to depression. That anger can then lead to us shutting down and isolating ourselves and may potentially turn to anxiety. So those are some examples. The second bucket of mental health is biological. And those things a lot of times are in our DNA. We're born with them, or we may develop them later in life. And those are things like being schizophrenic, being bipolar, being autistic. Those are just some examples. Most people with biological mental health issues need psychiatrists, may need in-house or counseling, and really need a good support system. And so again, I'm not an expert on any of these areas. I'm just discussing what they are, and then I want to go over my experience with you. And then as we move forward, we are going to bring guests on, and I'm going to have a different venue. So this is just from my home at the moment. The third bucket of mental health is conditional or critical. And that's where one of those things like worry, we don't do anything to solve that worry. We just keep worrying about the same thing over and over instead of coming up with a solution or getting help from someone or getting help. And then that worry then becomes anxiety. And anxiety then leads to more emotional problems and can lead to additional mental health issues. Then the fourth bucket is spiritual mental health. And that is everyone needs to know that they have meaning, that their life has meaning, and that they have purpose. God has put each single person on earth for a reason. And even though you may or may not believe in God, he does exist in my mind, and I believe that to be true. And he does have a purpose for all of us. And so we have to be able to really understand that. Spiritually, we have to have that purpose and that meaning of our life to be able to have that hope, because without hope, it leads us down to some really difficult mental health issues, which can lead to suicide, can lead to addictions. And of course, any of these mental health things can also lead to those issues. And so we want to talk about those. So we're going to pick up where I left off last time, which was talking about when I started to go down a path and have some mental health issues. And at the time I didn't realize it. I was 14 years old. And my mom had said, made a comment to me that boys were not going to like me because I was fat. And so I thought, well, geez, I was at that age where I was kind of thinking I wanted boys to like me. And so I went on a diet and did not realize that diet, because of my type of personality, and I'm very driven and very scheduled and meticulous at times, that it led me to a very restrictive diet. And after I lost the weight, I got a lot of compliments. My mom complimented me and my friends complimented me. And so I wanted to keep that up. Well, that was very difficult for me to do because I also enjoyed sports. I enjoyed being very active, and on a very restricted diet, I just didn't have the energy to do that. And so I started to do what we now call binge eating. I didn't know that at the time, where I would go kind of like for a couple of hours, maybe for a day, maybe a couple of days, where I would just really load up on all kinds of food. Normally it was junk food, sugar laden food, because that tended to make me feel better. And I came from a family where we were not supposed to express our emotions. So I kept most of my emotions bottled up inside me. And the binge eating, then, like any addiction, led me to lying to people. And I was not honest with people because I was shamed and I felt guilty about what I did. I really didn't understand it. And that kind of was in the background of my life for most of my life until I was into my late 30s and into my early 40s. I learned to control it, and no one really understood that I had that issue unless I told them, because I just kind of had a normal weight. And because I was so athletic, you didn't really notice, even though I might go up 10 pounds or down 10 pounds. But the emotional toll and the mental toll that it took on my life and my relationships really created mental health issues for me. I ended up really basically eating my emotions. I didn't want anyone to know that I was sad. I didn't want them to know that I was worried. I didn't want them to know that I was angry. I didn't want them to know that I was hurt. I kind of put on this Teflon. In fact, I had a friend of mine tell me not too long ago, because he worked with me for quite some time, he said, "God, you were just made out of Teflon." And so many people thought that because that was the persona and that was what I put forward to the world. Inside, that's not who I was. And when you are living a lie, it takes a real toll on your life. Um, all I can say is that, eventually I ended up suffering from chronic depression. I was treated for it numerous times. And I really never got to a point where I felt like I was completely healed of it. And there were times when the eating disorder would come into play and it wouldn't come into play. And doctors really didn't have a lot of insight, even though I'd sit down and I'd go to counseling and I'd spend, a couple of years in counseling and we'd talk about it. It just really never led to a solution. And so I started to really look at the 12 steps of recovery. And there are eating disorder groups out there, and really started to walk those steps. I walked them alone for a long time. And then I decided that I needed a group of people around me that I could be truly honest with. And that honesty is what set me free. It was not the counselors, it was not the medication, it was not anything. And so when the Lord tells us that the truth will set you free, that is more than I can tell you is so true. In my life, I really dealt with lying. I dealt with little lies to big lies because I didn't want people to know who I truly was. I wanted to be more than I was. And it was just that shame, that guilt that I felt growing up as a teenager and then as a young adult. I was never very comfortable with who I was. And I just felt like I always had to be more. I had to do more. I had to be better. Um, I was just never enough, just being me. And I never really understood that. Even though became a Christian fairly early in my life, I really didn't understand that. Even with God, I thought that I had to perform in order for God to love me. And when you're in that kind of a relationship with people or with our Creator, boy, that just leads to, craziness of thoughts. Your mind is on overdrive, just trying to be the best that you can be all the time and trying to get others to view you in this positive light when you don't even view yourself that way. In fact, you view yourself less than. And so it took me a long time walking through those 12 steps, and a lot of them were really difficult for me. Making amends to people was a super big challenge because I still was kind of struggling with who I was and letting those people know the real me. Finally, through just going to a lot of church, getting into a good church group, getting in with a good group of people and ladies, I was able to figure out that God loves me no matter what I do or what I think or what I look like or whether I eat or don't eat. No matter what my issues are, God loves me just the way I am because He is the one that made me. And so, yes, I want to do better. I want to follow Him. I want to put Him first in my life. But each of us sins every single day. And so I had to come to grips that I was not going to be perfect, and I needed to stop trying to be perfect to the people around me, because all I ever did from the time I was young was push people away. People that got close to me eventually would find out that I wasn't the greatest person to be around. And so I either got dumped or I dumped them first before they could dump me, especially if they were great people. And so that's just horrific, especially when you're in relationships. I destroyed marriages that way. I destroyed people in my wake of trying to be successful. I was ultra competitive, and that again was just due to that fact that if I couldn't win, then I just did not feel like I was deserving, that people would see me as less than. I lied about all kinds of things to people, and whenever I would get into a binge eating position where I was binging, I completely isolated myself. I didn't want anybody around me. Even if I was in a relationship or I was married, I would do it in secret. And then it caused a lot of guilt and anguish after that. And so I could never truly be the real me. And man, living life that way is so hard. It is just so hard. It's so hard on yourself, and it's so hard on everyone around you. So as I walked through the 12 steps, it took me quite a few years to get through them completely. And I would, fail and go back and fail and go back, and eventually got through all 12. Had to call some people and be face to face with some people and let them know that I had lied to them, and had to come clean about some of those lies. And that was super hard because I believe that I hurt them. And they also really didn't understand why I did what I did and why I just didn't tell them the truth from the get-go, because they liked me just the way I was, but I didn't like myself. And so when you don't like yourself, how can anyone else truly like you? You're just not that pleasant to be around. So I made amends to those people that I needed to. And if for some reason you're watching this and I did not make amends to you, I am so sorry. It was either because I didn't know that I had harmed you in some way. And again, I really do apologize to any friends or family that may be watching that I hurt and I have not made amends to, or I have not apologized. I am in recovery. I'll always be in recovery from my eating disorder. Now, though, my experience can help other women and other people deal with eating disorders, because that's what it is about for us that are in recovery, is being able to go out and help others. So that is what I'm doing here. Is I want to be able to bring this message that there is hope. No matter how many times you fell, no matter how often you try, no matter whether you go to counseling, no matter whether you try medications, no matter whether you go 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, or you go 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, right? We all start back again. Anybody in recovery knows that from whatever you're struggling with. Eventually, though, if you just hang in there and you have a good support system and you have good people around you, and for me, my faith and my higher power, God and Jesus Christ, really led me to that place where I can say I'm truly in recovery and I am truly blessed and truly happy, which is why I am doing this, is because I want to help other people. I lead a full life. I still have difficulty at times being myself. I catch myself pretty quickly when that happens. And I either tell the person I'm with, I'm sorry, that's not true, or I call them up later and say, hey, I apologize for acting like that. That was out of character for me, and I shouldn't have been so short-tempered with you, or I shouldn't have dismissed your feelings. At the time when you're in the moment, you might not know. And so I always want to go back and let that person know, because I believe that that's important. And sometimes I don't know what I don't know. So if I've hurt someone unknowingly and was not able to go back and tell them, then I believe that's just part of life, and that happens to all of us. I have a lot of empathy for people now because I understand that we're all struggling with in one way, shape, or form or another. And so, no matter what someone is going through, I am in the no judgment zone for sure. I am still very competitive, but not ultra competitive. And I, more than anything, want to devote my life to helping others. And I think that this is a way that I can do that through social media and also one on one with people and in a small group setting. So that's kind of my life in a nutshell. I am 60 years old now, and I can say that, I've been in recovery, since my late 40s. But again, like any recovery, I failed and had to pick up again and failed and had to pick up again. And so now I've got some great tools and I want to share those tools with you. So if you have an eating disorder or if you have any kind of an addiction, that these tools might help you. Some addictions, they might not, but I know they do with me. And one technique is called the HALT technique, and it's an acronym, and it stands for never allow yourself to get too hungry, too angry, too lonely, or too tired. If you have one of those things, that could push you over the edge into starting that eating disorder or drinking or drugs or pornography or gambling or whatever that addiction might be. Definitely two of those. I know for myself, sometimes being too tired and lonely can really push me into a dark place. So if I start feeling that loneliness come on and I'm already tired, I immediately reach out to a friend by phone. I've got a good neighbor that I can call, walk across the street and visit with her. I've got some best friends that will take my call. I've got all kinds of techniques. I go for a walk. If it's not nice outside, then, I might go to the gym. I might take a bath, do some reading, watch some TV. If none of that's working, then, I've got this list of things that I do. I pray. Sometimes it takes hours of going through the same list over and over again until I have now come to a place where I can have a sigh of relief because I've gotten through that moment of time where I'm not reaching for food to comfort me. And I'm actually walking those things. So I know that sounds like, wow, that seems like a lot of work. But you know what? When you're in recovery, sometimes it is a lot of work. There are other times it's not. It's just easy. And I pick up the phone and I've got a best friend or I've got a friend on the phone or I go for a walk and it's easy. And other times, it's not. It's super hard. And I just have to really rely on God and rely on others and the principles that I've learned. There are just many things that are on the list of things that I can do when I get triggered. And I know the things that trigger me. I've worked on them a lot. And so I don't allow myself to get into those kind of situations where I will get triggered and then fall back into that eating disorder that just makes my life chaos. And out of that eating disorder, the lying was probably the most difficult thing for me because I was always lying to be more than I was. And I was lying even in white lies to tell people that I couldn't go somewhere or I couldn't do something. And it was because I had just binged or I was in the middle of a binge or I felt guilty about myself and I didn't want to be seen by anybody. And I couldn't tell them the truth. Now I can live my life without any of that. And it's so freeing because I can go see people and I can go do things. And, it doesn't matter how I look. I don't have any makeup on right now and I could care less. I just got done working out. So, but I wanted to get on here because it's been over a week and I wanted to walk through my experience with you. So I'm going to have some guests. Some of the guests that I'm going to have, we will be in a different area rather than my home, or we might be in my home, but I've got a setup for next time. So They may not want to be on camera. You might just hear their voice, and I'll be asking them questions, and we'll be talking about different things. It's not going to be just about eating disorder, but mental health issues. And there may be guests that don't mind because, like me, they just, they're comfortable in front of the camera at this point. Other people are not. But regardless, we want to hear their stories because we want to be able to share and grow and help each other. So this is Pray, Play, Shift. And I hope that you get out there today and that you do some praying, that you have some fun playing, and that you shift your thinking, because it really does take a shift to be able to move that whatever mountain may be for you, especially if it's an eating disorder or an addiction. There's just a lot of things that you have to work on mentally. And if it's one of the other things that may take counseling or may take medication, then those are things that, again, I'm not an expert. This is just my opinion. I would recommend that you see a counselor, that you seek a psychiatrist, and definitely asking everyone out there, if you've had any thoughts of suicide, please reach out to someone. You can even reach out to me. I've only once contemplated suicide in my life, and it was just due to the fact that I had so much grief in my life that I just felt like I didn't want to live anymore. Deep down inside, God was with me, and he got me through that. Other than that, I've really never thought about it, but I know a lot of people do because they just lose that hope. So please reach out. There's the suicide hotline, and there's so many people that want to help you. In fact, the greatest thing about recovery is when we are in recovery, we help ourselves by helping others. So I hope you have a great day and a great weekend, and go out there and have some fun, everybody. I'll catch you later.